Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It is Friday, April 27th. This is Kops office hours. We have a couple of things on the agenda. Please do feel free to add anything else because we don't have a ton on the agenda right now. The thing I wanted to start off with was we did talk previously about getting Kops 1.10 alpha beta release as soon as possible. Which should have been out now by now, I guess. And they're sort of in our new plan of releasing alphas and betas even before they're really ready, so people have the option to do it. The thing which is blocking me and I'm holding back on is that we also have the desire to get our etcd, like we have our etcd roadmap, which is I think almost more critical. So I'm trying to make sure that we have the ability to opt in. The goal of the 1.10 release is to be able to opt into etcd manager. Which then also lets us change the default to etcd3 in a sort of honest way. And so that's what I am trying to get to happen. So the one thing I want to happen is get etcd manager working and change the default to etcd3, which will be obviously make a lot of people very happy on the defaults, and hopefully etcd manager won't make too many people unhappy. And etcd manager will remain opt-in, and then the plan going forwards is Kops 1.11 will change it to be the default, but you can opt out, and at some stage in the future you will remove support for the protocube integrated etcd, probably around, I would guess, Kubernetes 1.13 is going to remove support for etcd2, so that probably is around the time we would do it. So that feels a little early, but we'll see.
If we're also doing kind of a lot of changes in etcd, there was an issue about deprecating the events cluster. I think Chris said that it wasn't really needed, but we have it just for compatibility reasons or something.
Who wants to deprecate the etcd? So yeah, is that a Kops event, a Kops issue or a Kubernetes issue?
It is. It's a Kops issue because essentially the issue was saying that we can just have the events, and I'm guessing like the events is like Kubernetes events that we store on a separate cluster. And so the idea was like, we can just have them on the same cluster. There's no reason to separate. But I don't know the context and the background behind why the second etcd events is there in the first place.
Right, so the second etcd events in the first place is, you're absolutely right. The second etcd event was there in the first place to store the Kubernetes events in a separate cluster so that a large volume of events wouldn't interrupt the sort of like more important control plane. The idea being that events is like a log, and I don't believe anything acts on events. It's only a log. So no controllers act on events. We could certainly put them in one etcd server. The downside of that is that the scalability team, I think also, like they're the ones that initiated it, and I don't think they want to test. They have no reason to reintegrate them.
Okay.
So that's why I asked, like, if it should be a Kubernetes issue, because right now we want to stick with what the scalability team is recommending and verifying and testing, and they are right now saying separate is better. And I think I don't know whether it's actually required or whether it's just that there's no reason to, like inertia type thing.
Okay. I'll leave a note in that issue then. Maybe.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
So, if I can add my 2 cents to the conversation, I think it's actually pretty cool that Kops by default comes with the separate etcd for the events, because it removes a lot of thinking around how to size etcd. Because usually you start small and then you start having a bunch of more pods, and if you suddenly go crazy because someone in your organization decides to go crazy, then you have a problem. And splitting them after, of course, is possible, but it's work to do. I would say that this is really a safe bet for now. And as far as I know, GKE was running like that since the very beginning of time. And so I think it's safe. And yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
I'd love to claim credit, but yes, this is a GCE KubeOp. Like the scalability team did this, and it, as you say, it makes a lot of sense. And I certainly don't object to people putting them back together, but let's do it in the main repo and discuss that. It's nice. as Raphael said, to be able to drop, like you can always drop your events database if it like overflows, whereas you cannot drop your main database if it overflows.
Gotcha. Okay, that's really good context to have. Thanks.
For the record, when we originally set it up, we had it all in one etcd. I built the whole cluster manually, and that was the only issue we had, was the number of events going into etcd. Otherwise, everything was fine, but the event load was higher, and I was like, well, we don't really need these that long. So anyway, I like the way it's done. I understand the question too, and I feel similarly, but just my experience, why change what works?
Yeah, makes sense.
If we have like automated backups, we might well choose not to back up the events database, for example. Whereas I don't think you can do that if it's all in one.
Right, and then tuning the IOPS per storage would also make it easier. Cool.
Awesome. And then Raphael, you added a question for ACM certificate for API server ELB.
Yeah, so a little bit of background. I am setting up a couple of clusters with Kops, and I've been quite happy till now. But I reached a point where I need to give access to this cluster to other people inside the organization, and of course I need to give them the config right now, or I didn't want to give them access to the Kops CLI. I just want to give them kubectl, and I need to give them information regarding, of course, the certificate. I don't want to use current certificate. I would love to keep with I'm experimenting with the Happy Authenticator, which looks like it's fine for what I want to do, and for the level of trust we have inside the organization. But yeah, so I said, okay, maybe I can just use ACN certificate. It looks like it's not possible. And I saw some issues. So the idea would be, for me, I don't know, maybe something was already discussed. I haven't looked too much into Kops in the past months. Now I'm looking a little bit more closely, so that's why I'm here. The idea would be to make it possible to specify the ARN of the ACM certificate and use that for the API server. And this will make everything a lot easier because people don't have to trust any CA, or we remove self-signed certificate from that point of view. I'm not sure it's how hard it will be to implement. I don't think it will be hard, but I was wondering if it was discussed already or whatever. What's the status of that?
So it's a great idea. I have no objection to us implementing it at all. I think it'd be great. I think the reason why it might not be trivial is because of Kube API server might not allow it in all modes of operation. So I know it's been possible to do something like this in the past, where you have an ingress that decrypts with the certificate and then re-encrypts to a different SSL and a different TLS endpoint, so that API server still thinks it's an encrypted, it's an HTTPS connection. But I think there's also a new flag where you can tell Kube API server to have an external certificate, but I don't know if that works with ACM because you can't get the private key. And then I think also you can tell it that something is trusted. So if someone knows the flags, let's do it. But
I was more thinking of ACM only for the ELB in front of the API server.
Right.
That would terminate this connection. And then from the ELB to the API server would be SSL, but with the cert. So, I don't think we need to put the ACM certificate inside the API server, only to the ELB.
Oh, okay. So cool. So can ELB serve? Can
ELB?
ELB?
ELB has a mode which is SSL, so that should work. But yeah. I haven't tried. I mean, I will definitely try manually before doing that. But I wanted to get some background first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great. I think the re-encryption mode will break client certificates. They won't work. I think that's okay. I think it'd be a caveat, particularly because it is really convenient to use ACM certificates. But yes, I think that'd be great. The way you would, if you wanted to try to implement it, you would add a field to the API ingress ELB, I think is the sort of spec, and yeah, just set it up. But yeah, you can probably also do it manually and see if it works. And if it works, then great. Is there an issue where you're tracking this, or?
There was an issue where this was briefly discussed, but there was also other things. But I can definitely bring it up and see. Cool.
And I'll do a drop in if anyone's going to KubeCon EU, and there is a hack session on Wednesday night where if anyone wants to do a smallish PR, then we can get it all done in an hour and 20 minutes. I think we have allocated, and I think we could certainly get this done in that time. So that could be fun. I presume you're going, Raphael, right? Oh,
actually, no. Even though I'm very close, but this time I couldn't. So I'm not.
Oh well. Yeah. But yes, I guess if anyone wants to join virtually, they're welcome to. But you'll have to find me on Slack and do that or something. But yeah, I'd like to do more of those in like going forwards. I think it could be an interesting idea. So I thought we could try one in person. It's on the. I don't know if anyone's going to KubeCon EU, but yes, it is on the KubeCon EU calendar on Wednesday night.
I'll be there. So
you have to go to Denmark to get in the same room. But yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that would be wonderful. And yeah, do open an issue and we can collaborate on that. Or if you want to send a PR, that's obviously very welcome. But yes, I think that'd be great. And the only reason not to is just because of some of those complexities around does it work. But I know it works if you decrypt and re-encrypt losing client certificates. So great, thank you. Next item, Andrew, refactoring, consolidating cloud providers on Kops.
Yeah. So after adding DigitalOcean support, I think I have a better idea of what the Kops code base looks like. And I noticed there's a lot of places where we'll have like a switch statement that does like, oh, if AWS, if GCP, if DigitalOcean, if like all of them. And with some of, I think Alibaba is adding, they want to add support in Kops. And I'm sure like down the road, other people would want to add support in Kops. And so I'm thinking about like, what would it look like if we wanted to kind of consolidate code so that we can kind of add cloud provider functionality in one package or in just like in one place instead of kind of like files for different clouds being kind of scattered all over the place. So it seems like it'd be a pretty big effort. Probably, it'll take many, many versions if we wanted to actually do this. And I'm trying to think like, is this even worth it? Like, is this something that would be beneficial in Kops? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think yes, it would be. It's always going to be better to have cleaner code. I think we've started trying to do that with like the models layer where we split off the package and the resources layer for discovery where we split the AWS. Some of those are just historical where the AWS is in the root and we're trying to pull them out into subdirectories. But yes, you're right. There's a bunch of other places where we have switch statements. And I don't know to what extent we can pull those out, but it would be great to do that on an individual basis. The other thing that I don't know if everyone has seen Kustomize, which was formerly called K-Inflate. It is a cool tool for layering. Effectively, like imagine. So here's the problem it solves. Imagine you are running the Calico add-on and you want to change the log level. I think this actually came up. So today you have to. So the Calico add-on is managed by Kops. So today you have to add a field to the Kops cluster spec. You have to plumb that through into the Calico add-on and do all this. What Kustomize does is it lets you effectively have an overlay where you say, I want to change the setting of a particular manifest. It's sort of like templating, except the problem that it avoids with templating is templating introduces another language, whereas this is the Kubernetes API all the way down, as it were. So you just layer on the log level change, right? So it's restricted to things that can be effectively merged in the Kubernetes API. So it doesn't work very well yet for flags, but for environment variables or config maps or things like that, it works great. So I would love to get more and more. I think the first step here is to create an area where we can add customizations, is what they're called, and have them layer in and see to what extent we sort of remove a lot of the problems from a lot of the requirements to add fields to Kops itself. Now, as this applies to other clusters, it would be great to say, other clouds, I'm sorry. As this applies to other clouds, it would be great to say, can we actually, should another cloud produce a customization layer, right? Is that a way to do it? So I don't know, but that's the other way. I think yes, I don't know exactly how we'll do it in all the cases. I'm sure there are places where it will be easy. I'm sure there are places where it will be less well defined, and those are sort of the tools we have in our arsenal. So I'd love to see it. I think I don't think we can. Yeah, I certainly support the doing it. I think it'll be case by case. So I don't think we can.
Yeah, because I definitely tried to design an interface that I think could work for all the clouds, but there's always something where like this method doesn't work for this cloud, and so you have to kind of generalize it even more, and then like you end up with like two methods that don't do much. So I don't know, maybe we should just come up with something that works across all the clouds, and maybe it might be changing the current cloud interface, and then I don't know, from there we can try to see what customization layers we can add on top based on what you said.
Yeah, it is hard to produce an interface that works for all the clouds, and as you say, doesn't end up with effectively a switch statement.
Yeah.
Where you effectively have like the same, like every cloud apart from one implements like a stub method, right?
Yeah.
And definitely, if you look at like the cloud provider in Kubernetes, like there are definitely methods which are only implemented on AWS, and everyone's just like, we don't know what this means. This doesn't mean. So
yeah, I don't mind switch statements. I just want them to be in one place. Like I don't like, we can have switch statements.
So yeah, I agree. The switch statements get ugly fast, and it's just that the alternatives are not necessarily better. But yes, case by case, let's attack them. Go for it. If you have the energy, go for it.
Okay. I definitely think it's not something I can tackle case like little by little. It's gonna have to just be like one big PR where I just kind of flip everything over. Just because I find there's a lot of dependency loops and code changes so fast that if I change one part of the cloud interface and then I don't change the others, it just gets outdated. So okay, yeah. Let me think about it, and then maybe next office hour I can come up with an interface that works, and then we can talk about it from there.
That sounds great. And also, yeah, just put up work in progress PRs if you want, and yeah, that's wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you, Mike. KubeDNS to 114.10.
Yeah. So I don't know how familiar people are, but apparently there's a decent bug in KubeDNS 114.9 for external names no longer work. So they put out a patch. They patched all the Kubernetes versions with this, and we hard code our version. So a few people posted, I think the fix is already in master. A few people have posted like, how do I do this? And, I and a few others have responded like, oh, go about patching it the way we did with the CVE last year or earlier in the year. So it's an easy fix, but I just figured it was worth bringing up whether it's something we should get a bug fix out for or whatnot.
We should, and this is exactly what we want customize type things for,
right.
So that we don't have to like. This is a bad state of affairs. Well, it's not so bad for KubeDNS, I guess, because this feels more, but like for each of the CNI providers, it is even more uncomfortable. So yes, I will. My goal is to try to get 110 alpha, whatever it is, out before I get on that plane. And then so we'll do a 190.1 with definitely this bug fix. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to go into the 19 branch.
So, yeah, I don't know of anything else specifically.
I'll have a look, but if anyone else has anything else that they are, thank you for bringing that up. Does it just not work?
I don't know. We don't. I was hoping it would fix another DNS issue I'm facing, and it didn't fix it. But we don't actually use external names. But I just saw enough chatter on it. I thought it was worth bringing up.
There's also core DNS coming. I don't know whether. So that is one that I would love to get in via a customization. But we'll see.
Cool.
Yes, but thank you for bringing that up.
I think there's an open PR for core DNS.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, maybe not a customization then. So we'll get that in, but we'll get that in, and then that can be something that people look at as well. We're not going to backward that to 1.9, I suggest. So yeah, we'll have to do the version bump in 1.9.1.
When did the KubeDNS external name stuff break?
It broke in 1.14.9, which I believe we most likely pushed with Kops 1.9.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading the bug. Oh yeah, broken. That's not good. I remember there was a bug, or I thought there was a bug where it didn't like remove DNS names, but anyway. Ben, is there any specific? Sorry, go on, Ben.
Sorry. Yeah, we were trying to migrate to Kubernetes with my company, and right now we'd like to have like a single way of deploying our Kubernetes cluster in different environment, and we have like a local environment and environment in AWS, and I was wondering if we could do that all with Kops. And maybe it's already covered in the past. I'm very new to Kops, so I'm sorry if it's a redundant question.
It's not redundant at all. It is something we definitely want to do, but the answer today is no. I will tell you how we're trying to get there. So the two things that are, so there's the machines API and the cluster API effort, which is a way to effectively to put machine management, infrastructure management into the Kubernetes API. And that will, in theory, let us bring up, that's a Kubernetes effort, not a Kops effort. That will, in theory, let us manage machines in a way that is separated from the infrastructure. So you'll create a machine deployment. So today in Kops we have an instance group, and GKE has a node set, and I'm sure like every tool has a similar notion. Mm-hmm. The equivalent one in the machines API would be a machine deployment, and the idea is that, for example, the autoscaler would talk to the machine deployment and scale it up. A controller that is specific to your cloud or bare metal would actuate that in terms of creating machines or destroying machines, and it's going to be more baked into the Kubernetes API. And so that is one of the things which I want to get working in Kops, or get Kops adopting for bare metal, and then later we'll do it for AWS and everyone else, DO and everyone, I guess. Okay. And then the other piece, which is sort of really tricky on bare metal, is etcd management. The trick that Kops uses is it uses volumes to enforce the idea that, to sort of do leader election of the masters. And we have a project which I'm mostly working on called etcd manager, which will effectively pull that code out of Kops and into a more reusable component, and at the same time design it a bit better to support bare metal and to support etcd upgrades, which are obviously very important given that we have less than a year left, and to support cluster resize, so etcd cluster resize, so to be able to move from a single master to multi-master, so 1 to 3 to 5, and back down to 3. Also backups sort of come out of that. But the two pieces, sorry, that's a very long-winded answer for the two pieces that have to happen for bare metal, which is we have to get etcd manager, which is what I'm working on right now, and we have to get a machines API going. And I actually have a machines API running on bare metal in Kops, and so you'll see a lot of the pieces there, but it's not in the tree. So the answer is no, but probably probably soon-ish. But the answer is no, not really today. Sure. So today I don't have a great answer for what you should do today, I'm afraid.
Okay. When you say soonish, my assumption was best case scenario would be like in 6 months or something like that. You're thinking about something closer than that?
I think 6 months is, for production, I'd say 6 months is a good guess. Okay. But I've been promising this for a long time, so.
Yeah, it's not a commitment. I'm just wondering what you define by soon.
I think so etcd manager should work. I have it running, should be like turned on, and that's been the priority. Etcd manager should be turned on in what has to be turned on in Kops 1.10. So that has to happen in the next couple of weeks. And then it's a matter of pushing out the code I actually have to do bare metal and the machines API. The machines API is still not, I think actually it's now locked. So we can do that, but there was, it was alpha and changing rapidly. you may be able, if you're an early adopter, then if you're willing to be an early adopter for like a dev cluster, then ping me on Slack or something, and I'd love to work with you to get that going. But for production, 6 months is probably where I'd be happier. But yeah, certainly like a brave person can get it running probably in about 2 months, I would guess.
Wow. Okay, that's promising. It's a dev environment, so I'm definitely willing to be a beta tester of that.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, so ping me on Slack. I'm Justin SB on Slack as well.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I didn't see if anyone else added anything. We got a good list there. That was a good good thing for what was started off as an almost empty agenda. I don't know if anyone.
Do you guys mind if I ask a question?
Please do.
Hey, I'm Zach. I apologize for the noise. I'm in an airport. Actually headed to KubeCon. Super excited. Huge AWS fan and SIG AWS. Thank you guys so much for Kops. Our company runs entirely on it now, and we're a finance company. But question, the Calico networking layer, I enjoy, because we're running in a private VPC, I do enjoy the container networking interface. We just had an issue recently where we have two namespaces, production and staging, running inside the same cluster. That seems safe. And all of a sudden now, outside of our production, the Elastic Load Balancer, super sorry for the noise, I apologize. We're getting staging responses from the load balancer. And it was sort of like, it was kind of a huge bummer. Does anyone have like any idea for how to troubleshoot something like that? Because we thought to ourselves, like, okay, we can rule out the fact that they went to the right URL. We can rule out the fact that we see the kube proxy and it said, yeah, go send this to the production namespace. It's probably worth mentioning we're running the cluster on EC2 Spot because, I don't know, reasons. It seems like fun. But they're stable instances. Like, we haven't had an interruption in 3 months. So how would I diagnose something like that? Is it just shrug emoji where it's like, I don't know?
No, that's yeah. Certainly that is worth diagnosing. And is there an ingress controller in the mix as well, or how are you?
There is not. So we just use the load balancer service.
Okay, so I don't think that Calico is necessarily actually even involved in this. Like, so the way this works is, well, we'll see. But yeah, so the way it works is, like the service of type load balancer is actually exposed on a port called the node port on all the nodes.
Right.
And then kube proxy is the one that maps those directly to the pod IPs. I guess Calico could have sort of crossed the wires on the pod IPs, but I doubt it. But the way I would go about diagnosing is, I would start by hitting the node port and verifying that your prod sometimes returns you staging, and then I'd sort of go down through the layers. So like, if you can check that on a particular node, you're able to hit the prod port and get the prod node port and get a staging response, then you know that at least on that node something has gone wrong. And so I would SSH into that node and try hitting the pod IPs which it maps to, and hopefully there it's correct, right? But if it's not, then you know that it's Calico. That there is Calico. If it is correct, then you know it's the kube proxy IP tables mappings. And so there you can, so I'd look at the Calico and kube proxy logs for any errors, like in the hope, like that's the easy way to diagnose it, right? But
fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, tracking it layer by layer is sort of the way I would go about doing it. I certainly have not seen that. The one thing that I have seen is where, are you using Kops?
We are.
Yeah, so there was a issue with, we weren't mounting the X tables lock into kube proxy, X tables being something to do with IP tables locking.
Right.
And so if you're if Calico was also making IP tables changes, I don't know whether it actually resulted in corruption or just theoretical corruption, but that could be a case. So if you're not running Kops 190, you could try going to Kops 190, which mounts the mounts X tables, the IP tables lock. But
I think we are running Kops 190.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it shouldn't.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah, so anyway, but yeah.
Well, after moving everything out to a separate cluster, we fixed the issue.
That is a bummer. But yeah, I definitely would do the structured like diagnostic like layer by layer. That's definitely how like SSH. Like you'll notice that we're running the standard image that we have like curl and some networking tools on there, and that's precisely because of this sort of stuff.
So if you want, I can tell you I have countless number of production nightmares with Flannel, not with Calico, so I can't talk about Calico enough. But one good, and most of those nightmares were happening when, due to bugs, multiple bugs in Flannel, we were having 2 pods with the very same IP, which is really nice. And the way to troubleshoot the stuff is usually, so maybe this can be handy, this is why I'm saying it, exec into a couple of pods and try to see, just take them a random bunch of them if you don't have too many in a single cluster, and try to see if they can talk to each other. Usually in cases where Flannel was going crazy, it was kind of easy to find pairs of pods, which the communication was only going in one direction. And the way to fix it there is systemctl restart Flannel. In this case, was a systemd unit. But in any case, you got to do something hard.
That's all right. I mean, I ended up being able to explain with hand waving away, just being like, well, it was probably the blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, the issue's over, but just for my own edification, going like, I want to know what happened. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you track it down a little bit more, do open an issue, because like, you know, the kube proxy thing, it could be our not setting it up correctly, but also it could be a Kubernetes issue. Could be an interaction with, like, the interactions are the ones we hope it's not, because that's even harder to, like, if it's an interaction between Calico and kube proxy, that's a nightmare.
Right.
But yeah, being able to track it down or log it, it would be wonderful. And Raphael, for the pod IP complex, was that when you were using Flannel IP address management, or were you allowing kube controller manager to assign pod siders, node siders?
We were using Flannel to do that. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. It was actually easy to reproduce. Just we had a way to reproduce it manually, really easy with the version we were using. Then Flannel introduced like a log file, like a file where was, in case it was restarted, to retake the old IP, but also this would allow for another race condition. So it was kind of nasty. And the funny stuff is when this happens the first time, it's usually 5 a.m. in the morning.
It only happens at 5 a.m. Yeah, I certainly like the idea that you know, Kubernetes has the kube controller manager, which can assign a /24 to each node, and I like that because it's sort of, you know, common across everything, and it goes through etcd, and so we believe that to be, you know, lock or race free and bug free, and so that I like that, but I think there's also, you know, concerns that it's limiting and that you can easily run out of address space and all that. So
just say probably could only have, what, 255 nodes?
No, it assigns well, it depends how big your pool is. But yeah, it can act as a limit. So I think we assign a /10 in Kops. So to the 14.
/11, I think.
Sorry?
/11, I think.
Okay. /11. So 2 to the 13 is 8,000. So yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, the subnet per node is also configurable. Like you can do a /26 if you want.
But yeah, it's difficult to change though as well. I think our current setup allows 8,000, which I'm reasonably happy with. That if you want to do more than 8,000, you should think about it in advance. Wonderful. Well, if there's nothing else, then I will see at least you, Zach, at KubeCon. So say hello if you see me.
Oh yeah, where are you gonna be? Are you gonna be at the Contributor Summit?
I'm going to be at the Computer Summit on Tuesday, yes.
Word. All right, then I'll see you there.
Awesome. And see you there too, Andrew, and anyone else that is making the trek. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
See ya. Safe travels.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.